A very warm welcome and good afternoon to the 8th in our series of Tea Tuesday events and the 2nd of 2021. So we started back in August with our first National Day, Tea Tuesday, the day of conversation and connection, and we carried on, and now we're on month 8, which we're delighted about. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Hilary Woodhead, I'm NAPA's Executive Director, and I'm delighted to host these live events, which enable me to drink tea, have to have the tea, and talk to incredibly inspiring people. And look, we're both gone spotty today, which is fabulous. So what a job I have. As I said, these are free events, they're monthly events and they're free. If you would like to make a small donation to NAPA, perhaps the price of a cup of tea or coffee, you can do that. You can text us or you can go to our donate page, and Gianna, who is waiting in our wings today, will be able to just pop in the chat. Look, she's done it already. Pop in the chat how to do that. It's a special time for us at NAPA. We have just launched our year of moving and grooving, which is all about enhancing opportunities for physical activity across the care sector. And a very important part of moving and grooving is, of course, the art of play, which is absolutely vital to keeping everybody active. And so this afternoon, I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by Rachael Savage, who's the Artistic Director of Vamos Theatre. And I'm going to be talking to her, and we're going to be chatting and drinking. We will drink our tea. It always goes cold, but we'll try and drink our tea as we go. And just to say, drama and the arts, particularly drama and theatre studies, actually, was where I began. That's my background, and my drama degree really led me to my activity coordinator job nearly 30 years ago. So it's a very important part of my life, drama and the theatre too. So I'm sure we're going to have a lovely chat this afternoon, Rachael. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good. I'm really good.
Good. It's lovely to have you here. Do you want to just tell us a little bit about yourself and about Vamos Theatre?
Yeah. So I am the Artistic Director of Vamos Theatre Company. Vamos is a full mask theatre company. And we tour all over the world, from China to Norway, from Liverpool to London. We play in major theatres, but we also tour to care homes and to hospital wards. We make shows about things that I'm passionate about. So they might be from living with dementia or post-traumatic stress in the military or end of life. That's the Dead Good poster that we were talking about. And all of the shows take me about 2 years to research, and I research them with the people that are living those stories. So that's Vamos Theatre and myself in a nutshell.
Lovely, thank you. And in your experience, and you know, it's really interesting to hear about all the different productions that you're involved in. But in your experience, how does play improve the lives of people with dementia, or people generally that are living in care homes? What's been your experience of seeing the improvement in terms of someone's lived experience?
I don't think it makes any difference, Hilary, about whether people are living with dementia or not. We all need play, and we're all missing play desperately. I'd like to talk about the journey that I had into that world first, if I may, because that actually describes how I just fell into it by mistake, actually, and what a joyful place it was to fall. It was about 12 years ago. I was actually touring our show Nursing Lives at that time to the Hereford Courtyard, and we were performing there, and then at the end the chief exec came up to us and said, we'd like to make a co-production with you. And it was such a huge honour, and I was so excited. And then he said, the theme's dementia. So I said, oh, okay. And I started about 6 months research into it, and I very soon found out that all of the novels, the films, the books, the interviews, the chats were negative. And it's not that I don't want to celebrate dementia, that's stupid, but what I do want to do, what I wanted to do with my piece of theatre was I wanted to celebrate a person and a life And I wanted to focus, rather than on the losing of that person, I wanted to focus on the journey to keep finding that person and finding the fun and the laughter and any which ways to connect with that person. So thank goodness I got back in touch with an old family friend, Penny Greenland. Now, there might be some people, I hope, listening who have heard of Penny Greenland. She's my inspiration. She's the artistic director of Jabadeo. And so Penny has been working with older years living with dementia and younger years, tiny, tiny little baby bodies and growing into those bodies, she's a movement play specialist. So she works with acrobats, dancers, actors. And she also at that time was looking after her mum, Audrey, who'd been living very happily with dementia. And I moved in. I kind of said, right, I'm on my way. I'm going to get on the train. I'm going to come to Suffolk. Is that all right? And so I went and I met Audrey. Audrey was asleep most of the time. Used to be a head teacher. She was very conservative, very unlike Penny and Penny's unconventional ways. And Penny talked, Audrey slept a lot, and I typed. So as Penny talked, I wrote and wrote. All these scenes and ideas fell out of her mouth. And at one point, Penny just said, you know what, stop. Let's not talk anymore, just watch. And I'm telling this story because it's the story that kind of changed everything. So I said, okay, Penny. And she went up to the record player and she put on a vinyl. Audrey had been asleep for about 3 hours up until now. And the piece of music was a classical piece of music that began with a trill flute. And as soon as that needle was put down, Audrey did that. And then when the piece of music started for real with a Audrey stood up. And then Penny went up to her and made her offer. Audrey accepts. And they dance. And they spin round, they go round, but Penny lets her bump into the furniture with me with small children going, on the furniture. And Penny going, her body will react. And they just danced and danced and danced. And then at the end, Penny twirled her around and kind of threw her back into the armchair. Audrey goes back to sleep again. At this point, I've got tears rolling down my face. Just feeling like I've experienced something, I don't know, it was like aliens coming down. I didn't get it and I wanted to get it. And then she talked to me about her son, Rowan, so Audrey's grandson. And she talked to me about how when he was probably 17, 18, he'd left school, he didn't have a job, he was into his football and his mates and all of those things that 18-year-olds should be into. And he woke up one day, he could see his mum was struggling running a company and caring for her mum. And he woke up one day and said, I want to become Gran's carer. Penny and his daddy and said, okay, let's get you some training. So they got him some training, you know, he got 2 days training in how to become a carer, a couple of hours training in dementia, to become a dementia specialist. And thank goodness he was a natural, and he's my inspiration because he's playful and he accepts all realities. He's incredible in his understanding of non-verbal communication and tone of voice. And Audrey, his gran, she didn't know who she was. She didn't know who he was, but she knew that the minute that this boy entered the room, her life lit up. And I've been there when one time I was there was a lino fitter who was putting new lino in the kitchen. And Rowan goes past in his hoodie with his gran in her nightie. They've put music on and they dance past the kitchen like this. And this lino bloke, it's just his jewelry's on the floor. And another time when Ro was playing with Audrey's handbag, the anchor, and he was teasing his gran. They were just playing, kind of having a fight over it. that playfulness, the laughter, everything becomes a game, everything becomes creative and playful and joyful. And I think it's so important for me to start by telling you that story, because it's led to all of the work that we do in care homes now, all of the training, all of the inspiration almost behind everything I do. And I don't know, Hilary, whether we might be able to share a clip.
Good play. The bucket into the path of Campbell. Got Pearson breaking to his right. Wasn't the best of balls. England came to them.
This was really challenging to me, actually, getting home and finding the house looking like a teenager's bedroom and sounding like a teenager's bedroom. Telly very loud, football, and my mum, ex-head teacher, blue stocking, a very contained woman in the middle of it. And I used to have to battle, is this appropriate? And I watched it one day and realised that it was me that was out of kilter. She was holding her own absolutely fine.
Now Sterling headed away by Rachael. Let's call for Rachael. Sterling's got it back. It was Lallana. Good turn. Still out of Lallana. Hit by Jack Wilson.
That's beautiful. She had no idea what they were doing, but that instinct to mirror is so strong, because then you look right. Absolutely there. Her boys.
7 and it's 1-1.
Lovely strike from Jack Wilshere. Very good to get it on. I love that goal there.
And there'd be cans of lager on the table. On one occasion, several half-eaten pizzas.
The dangerous area is trying to make something happen, and then it just might drop to Jack Wilshere. As good as hand down edge.
This is the reference from other parts of the show where Danny discovers that she'd had a little white dog all of her life.
That's a great strike from Wilshere. He's been as good as anybody for England, no doubt about that time. That's a fine goal and a very important one.
16 for this drive by Campbell.
What is this? What is this thing? What is it? Oh, no clues. Ah, clue.
In the competition internationals, they found the range and found the net. Wilshere is.
And this is the point of beautiful genius on behalf of these boys. Again, just following that person. If you don't follow the rules, but you follow the person, what joy there is to be had.
Stop that cross is coming. Off the left side, just let that on the back of your net, so someone's got to get time to that.
And I mean, I so admire the other boys who watched Rowe and followed him.
Essentially what it was showing Audrey in the middle of this kind of beautifully playful, wild, anarchic world of energy and fun. And she goes along with it. She absolutely loves it. And actually Penny talked about when she came home and saw cans of lager everywhere and pizzas and the curtains are closed, and her mum in the middle of it, loving it, absolutely loving it. It also showed that our work is all in full mask theatre. So all of the work, this is actually, she looks a bit bedraggled. She needs
to brush her hair.
She does need to brush her hair. It's all of our work is non-verbal. So our shows are non-verbal, and then the shows that we take into care homes are non-verbal, and the training is all about the non-verbal.
Yeah, and that is so powerful in itself, isn't it? Because we put so much emphasis, don't we, on the conversation, and something that we've come back to again and again in all of these Teach Tuesday conversations really is that conversation is really important, but actually being with, alongside, and making the connection is a conversation too. There doesn't have to be words, and I think it's so important, isn't it, just to keep reminding ourselves of the power of connection and non-verbal communication, and also the power of the silences. as well. We don't have to fill every moment with conversation, do we?
No.
And in terms of, you know, trying to encourage play through everyday activity, what's your advice at Vamos around integrating play into daily activity, into the activities that a lot of those that are here today are involved in? Any thoughts on integrating play into everyday?
Oh yeah, lots. I think the first thing is acceptance. It's always got to do with acceptance. I spoke at a conference once where I was talking about acceptance in play. And when I say acceptance, I mean, whatever you're going to hit me with, I will go with it. I will accept anything, and I get on the tracks. And I spoke at a conference where I was talking about this, and then the next lady stood up afterwards, whose husband had recently died and he'd been living with dementia, and she stood up and just kind of went, I wish I'd done that. I didn't do that. That's what I didn't do. And actually that's what I should be talking about, because when he talked about the goblins outside the window, I said, don't be ridiculous. There aren't any goblins. It's all in your mind. What are you talking about? Rather than saying, yeah, I love the green one. I love the one in the tutu. and actually just accepting and playing. And I think that's what Rowan did as well. So even I learned a great story, a lesson from Rowan when Audrey became anxious around the twilight hours between about 4:30 and 6:30. When she was at home, she often became anxious because she wanted to go home. So rather than any debate, Ro would accept and say, okay, let's go home. So he'd put on her coat, they'd get in the car, they'd drive around the block, and they'd come back home. And Penny talks about better the journey than the battle. So that I think that's the first point for me, is the acceptance. I think the second point is music. So Penny and Ro would dance Audrey everywhere. They would have music on first thing in the morning, and this can be in care homes too. They'd use music to get dressed to, they'd get music to get out of bed to, they'd have music to encourage her to put a coat on to go to the garden centre. They'd have different music to go to bed at night. They'd also, I know I'm going to talk about our work in care homes, but the main thing is Jabadeo and their props. Yeah. This is how I'd be integrating play all day, every day. And I talk about their props because I've done so many different tours and shows in care homes, and it's the Jabadeo stuff that never fails, time and time again. And some people might be watching them thinking, this has been around for decades. Yes, it has. Yeah, they still never fail. So, you know, from their giant balloons, their games with giant balloons, what fun. They have huge scrunchies that you can, then, you know, giant. You'd have 30 people holding on and dancing with these. You've got your beautiful, colourful scarves that they dance with. And then, this is often my favourite, is the ribbons, which actually can be really aggressive, and you can get people really moving and expressing themselves non-verbally. So those props, the Jabadeo props, they never fail. And they're all on their website, and they're cheap, and they're still making them. So
I think as well, there's something, isn't there, about if you're enthusiastic, how that rubs off really, in terms of, you know, the integrating into daily activity, that you try something and you try it again and you try it again. And that other people might then be enthused and think, oh, okay, I could try that too. I think, you know, that's how you start to integrate, isn't it? And I loved your idea about, you know, music from the point of somebody getting up, that actually play doesn't have to be something we do at 2:30. It's something that we do throughout the day. In every aspect of somebody's day as well, which is lovely. I remember, I'm not sure where the story came from originally, but I remember Alison, my colleague, telling me about somebody saying that they were riding a horse to the kitchen. And of course, they didn't think that was drama or role play, but of course, absolutely, this woman loved riding a horse, so they rode a horse to the bathroom or to the kitchen. And I thought that in itself is that is drama, isn't it? That is play. And some of us are naturally more playful than others in our, in our communication, but that doesn't mean that it's not something we can't learn to become more.
Yeah, and accept play. And I think you're right. I think when we use this word drama, I hate the word drama. I hate it. I'm terrified of it. Because it can sound like something frightening, and it can sound like something that can embarrass or belittle somebody.
Yeah.
But actually having that, the amount of times I go into care homes, when I do my training, I'll often go in and people will tease another member of staff and go, oh, you're always messing about, you're always having a joke, you're always laughing, or you're always singing. We know when you come on your shift because you're always singing. And I always say, good for you.
Yeah.
Good for you. I bet you're brilliant at your job. I bet you're phenomenal at it, because you bring playfulness and life and joy. And it's kind of about our choice of words, isn't it? If the choice of word drama terrifies us, get rid of it.
Get rid of it. Yeah, don't use it. Yeah, absolutely.
Use joker.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tell us a bit more about your work in care homes.
Okay, I fell into it. So same as Finding Joy. I kind of so Finding Joy went out on tour. We were getting quotes. I don't know if you know dementia poet John Killick. He gave us the quote that said, "You learn more from finding joy about dementia than a dozen textbooks." And so people started saying, "Rachael, come on." And I was kind of going, I've only met one person. I've met Audrey living with dementia. This is my story. So I actually decided to get out on the front line and to take theatre into care homes. So mistakes, that's how I learned. My first mistake was I'd made a show called Finding Joy. So I'd found the joy, and then I wanted to share the joy. And so I stupidly, if I got a flyer here, I stupidly named our show in care homes Sharing Joy. And people have been confused ever since. But and I also then made the mistakes of things like of saying to staff, please can all of the residents wait outside for us to get in, for us to unpack, for us to get our costumes, get everything ready. Because, and I'd say things like, because the mask, when it enters the space, it needs to be a surprise. And I soon learned what stupid thing that was to say when I'd accuse of people fed up waiting outside this blooming care home sitting room. And so then we went, oh, okay, scrap that, learn from that mistake, scrap that. So the next time we went in and we said, okay, so first of all, we will come in, then we will introduce ourselves, then we'll get music playing immediately. So we always have pre-show, show, and then post-show music. And then we talk to people constantly about what we're doing, why we're doing it, and they are involved right from the word go. So the show, rather than being 45 minutes, is 4 hours.
And the
show, I know. And the show is a combination of all of Jabberdaya's props interspersed with a full mask theatre show. And it's actually a show that we toured for years, and it's called Nursing Lives, and it's about Florence. And Florence is a nurse on her very first day at work, and she's in the Second World War. You weren't given training, you learned on the job. And she met characters like this terrifying beast, who of course we all know as Matron. And then during the show, of course, there's a baby is delivered at one point, and that's delivered by a woman. No, that's always a member of the staff, the care home, where I go in and I say, who's a good laugh here? Who can take a joke? And they always say, oh, Carol is. And I was going, great, she's going to have a baby today. And then the show is interspersed with Jaberdaya props, with live song, music, puppetry. It's a riot. It's wild.
It really does sound it. It does sound like a riot. And
it's supposed to be an hour of
I love the idea of setting up with in amongst the life of the home, that it's not something that comes in and goes, that it's all part of the day, that you've just happened to be there on that day, as opposed to we've got a performance. You know, it's all sort of becomes part of the day's activity, which just sounds fantastic. And so you also deliver training, don't you? Tell me a bit about the training that you deliver, because obviously what you do is very specific, and you have trained for years, I'm sure, as a theatre company to get this right. So what do you share? How do you share some of the approaches with staff through your training?
That was actually what I was asked to do by the Alzheimer's Society. Came to see Finding Joy and then said, "Can you put that into training?" I went, "Oh, okay." And so what it does is it teaches how we listen with our eyes. It teaches about how we use our eyes to connect. It talks about how we use our faces. It talks about the non-verbal, the breakdown of communication, the being responsible for your own non-verbal communication, for what people can read, as well as reading how people are thinking and feeling. There was a story once about our very first, and I always tell this at training because I think it's important. At one of the first care homes I went to, there was a care manager who, when I arrived, said, "We don't believe in soft toys or babies or dolls. It's patronising." And I went, "Oh, okay." And then I knew, I had the baby in the show. There's a baby. And I knew that there was also a lady, a resident called Ruthie, who had been a midwife her whole life, had never been married, was married to the job. And so I was in a dilemma. Do I bring the baby into the show or not? And I just thought, if I watch Ruthie, she will tell me whether she wants that doll or not. So I'll let her make the decision. Absolutely. And as soon as I bring this doll out, Ruthie goes like that. And so I give Ruthie the doll, the baby. And Ruthie holds this baby for the next, all the way through the show. We don't get a look out there. She's with the baby. She's all the way through the show, all the way through the get out, probably for 3 hours she's holding this baby, until at the end I think, "Oh, I've got to go now. I've got to pack up. Got to take the baby." And so I go up to Ruthie and I see that Ruthie's looking a little bit, just not, a tiny bit anxious. The baby's fist, she's going like that too. And I can tell that she's wondering why the baby isn't holding her finger. So I go up to her and I look Ruthie in the eyes and I just got hold of her finger. And then she looks at me and we just nod. Yeah. And Ruthie's completely non-verbal. And that for me, I don't use words when I go into those care homes with that show anyway. And it's just that where you just find something deeper.
Yeah, something deeper. And that's amazing, isn't it, to think? And I think, the theatre that you have been producing, the play that you have been bringing to people's lives using masks, and yet in the last year, we've all been wearing these masks and seeing them as a real barrier. And it's interesting to hear you talk about the communication through the masks and how actually that's enabled you to make connections, which is actually what so many of us have had to do, haven't we? And think creatively around this what we've seen as something that's got in the way of communication.
These masks are horrendous though for communication. I'm doing some training at the moment for GPs and kind of trying to explain what this is taking away from us. I mean, I can't hear properly when people talk to me wearing these masks. Exactly. So I've gone through a real process of thinking, how come I love character masks? Entirely different, but really difficult.
It's interesting. And so obviously, as we've said, this has been the hardest of times for the care sector. What have you been up to in lockdown? How has it sort of affected the work that you've been doing and the any opportunities that have actually come from working in this way?
Yeah, we've been busier than ever. April 2022, we got a BBC commission to make a piece for Culture in Quarantine. And so I made a 20-part series called How Hard Is Waving? and it's a full mask show that's on BBC iPlayer, and it's been on BBC iPlayer for a year. It was inspired by a friend I'd made in a local care home. So the walk between my house and my friend's house goes past a care home, and I always used to pass by Hazel, who lived in a corner room at the downstairs. And I walked past the first time and just gave her a little wave, and she looked back tentatively thinking, do I know you? But she waved back anyway. And then the next day I went, and she was there waiting for me. And as soon as I got there, she was there waving, and we went through a whole where I could talk to her through the window, and we built up a real friendship until she died on Christmas Day. And so that inspired me to make How Hard Is Waving, BBC production, about a family who were trying to stay connected during lockdown, including a member of the family, their gran, who's living with dementia, who's living in care. So we did that. Then from that, we started a national campaign called the Wednesday Wave, which was about trying to encourage communities to wave to people in their local care homes.
Brilliant.
And that took off all across the country. Then we sent out boxes called Joy in a Box, which was full of activities. It was for Christmas, and it was an advent calendar of activities from the 1st of December to Christmas Day, with a whole combination of Jabadeo props and Vamos ideas and playlists, music. And then we've made a show that we actually tour to care homes, and we perform it outside, and it's called Love Through Double Glazing. And it's myself, and it was just one day in the summer that I thought, oh, come on, we're supposed to be touring to care homes this summer. Surely we can be more creative and do something different. So I gave a colleague a ring who's a clown for Cirque du Soleil. They play hard. He's terrifying when he plays. He scares me. And I said, Sean, could we do something through windows of double, through the double glazing of care homes? So we said, of course we can. So it's a two-hander, well, 2.5 really. He plays 3 recognisable characters that you'd meet in any care home, from Jeff, the over-enthusiastic armchair fitness instructor, to the chef, to a window cleaner. So we go through a process of Jeff has to start with striptease, of course, because there's not enough naughty in care homes. And then the chef is like a panto-esque slosh scene. So we make a mess, and it all goes all over the windows. And then I draw messages of love on the windows. And then, of course, the window cleaner comes and cleans them all away. And we finish with a kind of, a dance to Swan Lake with buckets of water, and my character Florence, 81-year-old Florence, has got a hose pipe, so I do a water display, and my character Florence, who's in mask, has also got a little dog, a real dog, which is my dog, and she arrives out of a box on my wheelchair Zimmer, and she arrives out of this box and comes out. And if nothing else fails, Nora never fails. I do love Nora.
You have been busy in lockdown. Yeah. That's quite a lot to have achieved in the last 12 months. That's just incredible. And I'm excited to see what's going to happen next. I'm just wondering about funding. So how do the people, that are tuning in today, how do we find out more about funding opportunities and connecting with Vamos?
I think the thing about taking our show to care homes is it costs money. I take high quality theatre and artists into care homes. Yeah. What I know is that then the price becomes prohibitive or a shock. So what we do is we always say, let's work in partnership, because what we always do is we chase pots of funding. I know that care homes, maybe larger, have that ability to chase pots of funding. We also say, for example, if in Worcestershire, our county councillors have all got £10,000 each year to spend on whatever they want.
Yeah.
And if that money doesn't get spent, they spend it on filling in holes in the road. So we always write to them and go, no, don't do that. Wouldn't it be a nice press release for you, councillor, to take a piece of artwork, to take a piece of joy in theatre into your local care home? And they always go, oh yeah, I'd like that. So that's often where they will fund that local care home to have.
So care homes, if they're interested, get in touch with you, and then you can look at local level what might be available. Okay, that's great to know. Well, I think let's just look at we might have some questions in the chat, one or two. Just having a look here.
Can I just say, I've just seen one there saying, do you tour to hospitals? Yes, I love it. We went to Wolverhampton Hospital a year or so ago, where first of all, we went sharing joy with this show, this quite big show. And Amanda, the sister, took me to their kind of shared space and said, can you do it in this shared space? And I went, it's too small. I just thought you're only going to get 2 people in that room by the time you get all of the set of the actors. And I said, what about if you just let us visit each bay? So we will come to all 4 bays and we will change the show in order to make it match the shape of that bay. Oh, it was just brilliant. Yeah.
Always ways round it, aren't they? There's actually a question similar to that about the space, actually. This is from Bola, who works on a hospital ward, and she says it's always really busy. Do you have any advice on how to prepare an environment or how to create the right atmosphere for play? Interesting.
On care home wards, particularly at the moment, I've got a friend who, she's 50, she's an athlete, she has been an athlete for Team GB. She's recently come down with COVID and she's gone to hospital, and she's texted me in the evening saying, I've been put on the dementia COVID ward. And she said, I've locked myself into the toilet to shut the door to cut out screaming. And this, for me, I find it so upsetting. It's upsetting for everybody, but the offer, the gift that I would like to give to that hospital ward, I can't go in, I'd love to, is music, is playlists. That remembering that the different playlists that you can find for movement. Penny Greenland often talked about when her mum, Audrey, had a broken hip. She went into hospital. The physio couldn't get her moving. So Penny, after an hour or so of watching, said, can I just try something? And she put on music and she got out the giant balloon. And she starts to use this music. And then, of course, her mum, the movement and the action of the balloon gets Audrey up, which is what the physio wanted to see. But then it also gets every elderly lady on that hospital ward going, as well, I want the balloon, give us the balloon. And so everybody joins in. So 2 simple, really things: music, giant balloon.
Yeah, okay, there you go, Bola. And there's a question here from Luke as well. Luke says, I'm quite out there. I love to act and role play, but sometimes I think my colleagues are embarrassed and they won't get involved. How can I encourage them to be more playful?
So hard. It's so hard when you have got that kind. First of all, I would congratulate him and say, I would only hope that your enthusiasm catches on, because that's what makes you brilliant at that job. And I think if you smile at people, if they see the energy and the joy that you bring,
infectious.
If they're in the right job, they will join in.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Rachel. So I think we're just about there, but I wonder if you have any kind of takeaway, any top tips or anything you want to kind of leave our viewers with this afternoon.
I think it's something that Penny and I recently talked about, which is follow the person, not the rules.
Oh, I like that.
Don't worry about the rules.
I like that very much, especially at the moment when we're all so driven by rules and regulations, aren't we? Thank you, Rachel. Thank you so much for your time and your expertise this afternoon. It's been really lovely to chat with you. You didn't drink your tea. It's always the way. Have a quick slurp. It's probably gone cold. And thank you to everyone that's joined us as well. This is being recorded, so we will have this out next week via Vamos and via Napa. So watch out for the recording if you'd like to watch again or share it with your colleagues, perhaps who couldn't make it this afternoon. We also have the Napa helpline. So if you're interested in finding out more about how to integrate play into activities, please get in touch with us and we can liaise with Vamos, etc. if there's anything else that we can do for you and any more information we can get to you. We hope you'll join us again on the 27th of April, which is the next Tea Tuesday event. It's a little bit later next month due to Easter and one thing and another. But next month I'll be chatting to Chris Maddox. She'll be my guest and we'll be talking about the importance of seeing the person and really thinking about what we mean by quality of life in terms of activity provision. So you'll be able to book that from tomorrow on our Eventbrite page. Mouthful. Thank you all very much for being here. Thank you again, Rachel. It's been really lovely. Take care and bye for now. Thank you.